Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us today on July 23rd, this Thursday, for another edition of 3 o'clock with SOC. I'm just on today to share the interpretation information in Spanish, and then I will be passing the mic to Marlene, who's going to be our moderator for today. Hola, buenas tardes. Muchísimas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros en otro foro comunitario, hoy el 23 de julio. Yo nada más estoy aquí para compartir la información de la interpretación en español y luego le voy a pasar el micrófono a Marlene, quien va a ser nuestra anfitriona de hoy. Ustedes, como siempre, pueden marcar el número 646-749-3122 y luego hay que introducir la contraseña y la contraseña es 779-328-221. Y esta información siempre aparece en los comentarios también, si tienen que accesar la llamada de conferencia después. So now I'm just going to go ahead and pass it to Marlene, who's going to be continuing the moderation for the day.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to 3 o'clock with SOC. We're really glad to have everyone here today. So just like Gabe just said, translation is available in Spanish, and then the link to any recorded Spanish versions of the episodes is on the Facebook page and YouTube. You can call 646-749-3122, and the access code is 779-328-221. My name is Marlene Zaron. Many of you know me as the COVID-19 project coordinator, and I'm also the forum coordinator. So today I'm going to be moderating. So we would like everyone to complete our survey that we have, and that is in the comment section. So please complete that and give us your feedback on what you think the forum is like and anything new that you'd like us to have on the forum, any topic that you'd like to learn about, any news information that you'd like to hear that you think we didn't cover, and how we've been doing so far. So you can let us know. I'd like to give out a disclaimer that that the views and opinions shared today do not necessarily reflect those of SOC. And that being said, I'd like to introduce Tammy Rivera, who's our executive director, and she's going to be speaking with our main guest today. So if we can introduce Tammy online.
Thank you, Gabe, and thank you, Marlene. We are responding to feedback from you all and internally from the SOC staff. And let me tell you, we need to change up the voice a little. Otherwise, I'm afraid that my voice turns into the Charlie Brown mom, waka, 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 if I'm the one speaking for this whole entire time. And so we are modifying the forum and strengthening it. And as you can see, my our staff is so capable, and so glad to hear and see them more often on here. All right, folks, this week I want to remind you that we are focusing on individual and business economics, or the economy for us during this COVID time. We partnered this week with the Latino Chamber of Commerce, the Latino Entrepreneurial Network, with Nelson Saled. And that's the Latino Chamber of Commerce, not to be confused with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. That's a different organization. And so we're happy for their partnership. Strategic partnerships bring strength to the work that we can offer our community, and we're glad to do that. Please know that tomorrow, we are going to focus on entrepreneurship. So for those of you who lost your job and are thinking, is this the time that I should, launch a business, or want to add some extra income because of the hard times and want to start a business? Or maybe you see that there's a need or an opportunity right now that's not being met, and you want to examine or go ahead and start a business. Nelson Soler, the president and CEO of the Latino Chamber of Commerce and also of the Multicultural Entrepreneurial Institute, his own private business, is going to be here tomorrow helping you navigate those waters. So even if you're not thinking of now, you're thinking of maybe after the pandemic, let's get you the information and program and resources you need now. Next week, our theme is going to be racial justice. We don't want to make an assumption that you do or don't know much about this topic. If you're a person of color, more than likely you have experienced racism. Here, it's just one of the plagues of the nation we live in, but we're hopeful, especially in these times, as we have seen in other times, that we're going to make progress on this topic and live up to the ideals that we profess as a nation. And so here are what we have so far. I have tons of calls out. I have had tons of conversations, but these are the ones we've landed so far. The topic of racial justice is like extremely expansive. And maybe we brainstorm 20 topics that we could cover. And of course, we have 5 days, 30 minutes a day. And so it's just like a really intro. And we're trying to be strategic about what the near South Side district, especially thinking of the population, is. In case you're wondering, on the near South Side, our district, which is from First Street to Miller Parkway, from the Valley to Oklahoma Avenue, some people consider it like the near South Side and the second ring around that. It's comprised of about 70% Latinos, Latino X community, 20% white, and 8% African American. That's the South Side. So when we think of those populations and racial justice, we want to make sure that we, customize that discussion, especially because it's so small time and just an intro. So here are 3 topics we've landed so far. If you have some ideas of things you want to know more about, or you have suggestions of people you want to hear here on the forum, let us know. So we haven't had this person on yet, and I'm so glad. I'm so fond of him. I admire him immensely. So wise, and I depend on his mentoring as well. We have a legacy leader in our community, Jesus Salas, a lifelong migrant worker rights legacy leader. He is going to tackle cultural identity. And then Reggie Jackson, we're going to have back. He is going to tackle internal racism. And we're going to end the week with reconciliation, the concept of how do we heal and come back together. And Dr. Rob Smith from Marquette University is going to be back with us on that day. And what's so fascinating to me about that is he's interviewing folks who participated in the apartheid in South Africa reconciliation process. And so that's a model of reconciliation that we're going to be introduced to or know better if you've already have been talking about that. So next week, you don't want to miss it. The week after, we're going to tackle all this talk about law enforcement reform. What does it mean to defund the police? What does it mean to divert funds from the police to other services? You're going to get the collaborative community committee's presentation. I'm going to bring that to you. And we're going to try to name and identify all the things that are happening around law enforcement reform. And so we got some strong weeks for you ahead. All right, folks. Before I invite our guest on, in case you didn't catch it earlier in the week and you're joining us now, this week's big development was that the Fire and Police Commission finally completed their review of Chief Morales. And what resulted from that is 11 directives, things he must do by a certain date. And so we have shared that, and it's going to be shared again in the comments. I shared it earlier in the week, I believe on Tuesday. So if you want to hear them while they're there, or if you want to read them, go to the link. And I told you, as a result of that, one of the directives was for him to ensure that the community-oriented policing policy be worked on in collaboration with other organizations. And so the positive and exciting news about that is the Milwaukee Police Department reached out. We got an email asking for input into a draft they created. The deadline is tomorrow, so it's too soon for us to be able to turn that over. But I think that's a good first step. You know, even if it was forced, we're gonna, receive that, and we are genuinely looking forward to having a stronger and more committed, digging in the work together with the police department. Just like we did when Chief was captain in District 2, we did some incredible work with him, and we're looking forward to having that type of relationship with him as a chief. All right, so you're all caught up on the latest news on what's happening this week, next week, and the following week. Now, the much anticipated discussion about unemployment. We know from our frontline staff that a top contact from you all has been help. We need help with our unemployment application and response. And so very happy to invite Ann Astin on. She is the program coordinator for the Department of Workforce Development, Division of Employment and Training. Hola, Ann.
Hola. Thank you
Nice
for
to
having
meet.
me.
Nice to meet you virtually.
You too.
But it's still a nice meeting. Listen, we had such a hard time getting a response from the unemployment office, and then someone said that you all could come in instead if we didn't get a response. So I just want to share. Listen, we're so grateful you're here because you just heard me say this is one of our top calls, and so I'm looking forward, even for myself, of understanding the systems and the players better and what's happening. So glad you're with us. And if you caught, the program is being interpreted simultaneously to our Spanish-speaking community members as well. And so we're hoping to have a big reach today.
Great.
And tell us a little bit about your specific role, and then tell us about the Department of Workforce Development. And I want to make a distinction because people are really upset that you're not the unemployment office, you're the Department of Workforce Development. But let's first talk about what's your role, and then what does the DWD do?
Absolutely. So my role is I am the Reemployment Services Program Coordinator in the Division of Employment and Training in the Job Service Bureau. So you can relate me to the job centers, more or less. I do serve as the liaison between job service and unemployment. So I do have some good unemployment information. But in a nutshell, Division of Employment and Training is one of the divisions under the Department of Workforce Development, and also is the Unemployment Insurance Division. So we're all one department within, but we have separate divisions within the department.
Okay, so DWD has to do with everything about people working.
Yep, all workforce. Yep.
All workforce. And then your division has to do with training and the training centers.
Training and job searching needs. What's available at our job centers, and of course right now they're closed, but we are still servicing individuals virtually. So the job searching needs, individuals that had unemployment related needs for internet access or computers, would use our job centers that way for filing unemployment claims. But within our job centers, we have many entities there, such as apprenticeship, individuals who would like to go into the trades field, Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, otherwise known as DVR. Our veteran services are there. So there's lots and lots available at the job centers and or now virtually. So we do have a call center that individuals can call to get assistance. We have our career counselors that are doing work virtually with folks. So there's a lot that is offered within job service.
Well, that's good to know too, because we covered jobs the other day, places people can go if they lost their job, if they need to supplement, or this is a time that they're thinking of changing careers. So that's good to know. But you also mentioned that you are the liaison to the unemployment office. And in your department, did I hear you say that you also manage the unemployment insurance?
No, I
No.
manage the reemployment services,
The reemployment services.
yes,
Okay. Getting
it's a
people back to work.
yes, yep. It's an unemployment program that's funded federally.
Okay, great. Um, Now, can you share the distinction between what you all do and the unemployment office does, just to make it further clear for folks?
Absolutely. So the unemployment insurance office really gets individuals benefits. So weekly benefits, money in a
Mhm.
nutshell, to sustain between the loss of a job and um, when they acquire a new job, or in what we've just recently seen, many folks have been furloughed. What we do at the job centers or within job service is we help individuals. Maybe they want a career change. Maybe they need to look for a new job because they're not going back to a job. That's what we service.
Got you. But because of that relationship, you understand unemployment insurance better than the average person. So this is what we're gonna really need you for, Ann. I know
Absolutely.
that you were ready to. How about share just what's happening in terms of the statewide and the Milwaukee numbers,
And
unemployment numbers?
you betcha. So, what I gathered for you all today was just kind of a quick snapshot, and everything that I'm providing to you is public information, and it can be found on the public website for unemployment. But since March 15th through July 18th, which was just this past Saturday, there
Mhm.
have been 782,000 initial claims. So that means
Wow.
that means individuals have gone and opened up an initial claim to basically apply for benefits for the program. Yeah, it's just slightly over 782,000. Um, Weekly claims during that same time frame, there's been 4.5 million weekly claims that have been submitted. So it's a astronomical difference. I can give you a little bit of what it was like in comparison to last year. So going back a few weeks, our website is always updated, and it might be like about a week behind for initial and weekly claim information. 2 weeks ago, there was about 28,000 initial claims made, and the same time last year, there was about 5,000. So
Wow.
it's still quite a significant difference.
Mhm.
Now in Milwaukee County, and this is dating back, what I have for you is back since the beginning of the year. There's been 147,000 initial claims made this year in the Milwaukee County. So that's a significant number also.
Wow. Very different numbers, astronomical increases. Um, what does that mean now in terms of how we respond to those claims as a county or a state? Like, did that require a multitude of more staff? Did they shift now all the job center staff because that's closed to help with unemployment? Like, how, what is your awareness of how they're responding? I mean, first of all, nobody was ready for a pandemic.
No,
No,
you are correct.
and you know, it's an impossible situation for everyone. But what are some of the things that you're able to share that are being done or have been done to meet this demand?
Absolutely. So, not just within the Department of Workforce Development, but there's been other agencies within the state that have loaned staff to unemployment. Um, just within job service alone, 40% of our staff has been uh, transitioned and trained over to unemployment to help with claims specialists answering phones, adjudication work where they do investigative work, um, anywhere that they have needed individuals. So it's been a training process to get these folks up to speed on what needs to be done. But since all of this has happened, I don't have the exact number, but somewhere around 1,000 individuals have been hired on for the increased workload. It's been a significant workload increase.
Yeah, and when you think of that, that's people power. You still need all the paperwork tracing, all the technology. My eldest son works in technology, and when the pandemic hit, like and our experience of just converting from in-person organizing to digital and what it took with hardware, software, internet access, lots and lots of things to figure out because the people are still hurting. Let's give folks an understanding now. I was even confused. Now I did a little research before you came on, but just to make sure that I could swim with you or behind you while you lead us. But could you explain? There were regular unemployment insurance options prior to the pandemic. Let's start there, and then we could add the pandemic plus extension 1 plus extension 2, if we could help people understand what's happening.
Absolutely. So yes, what I refer to it as regular unemployment insurance is that benefit that helps the individual who's lost their job through the transition to acquiring a new job in most circumstances. That is a maximum of up to 26 weeks that can be received within a 52-week period. Well, because of the response to everything that has gone on, the federal government brought on several new programs. And so I'll just kind of touch base on each one of them if that's helpful.
Yes, it
So
is.
we have the first one, which is kind of the biggest one, is the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation, otherwise known as FPUC. That was the additional $600 per week above and beyond the regular unemployment benefit. Now, something to note there, that does end this Saturday.
This Saturday.
Unless I know nothing at the federal government level, but in the event the federal government were to change that, it does end at this point in time. Then we have the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, otherwise known as PUA, and that there's lots of reasons that you can be eligible for that program. The most significant one is for those that are self-employed that don't qualify for regular unemployment, and that is up to 39 weeks of benefits that would be payable to an individual. We do have the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, which is the PEUC, and that is for individuals who have exhausted regular unemployment, and it gives them an additional 13 weeks of benefits. And then the last one, which is a state program, which is extended benefits or EB, that triggers on and off based on the unemployment rate. And we had triggered onto that a few months back.
And that last one we've seen before. It came during the last recession.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, I remember that. And so based on the unemployment, that kicks in and might give people a couple of more weeks. So
Correct.
folks, that's what's happening, which looks like regular unemployment, and then the help because of the pandemic in general that you said ends now next week, unless nothing else changes, it ends.
Correct.
And then sort of 2 other levels of assistance, one for non-traditional workers, it looks like, right? When you say self-employed, like categories that generally don't qualify.
Correct. Yes.
Is what it looked like to me when I was looking at that.
That's exactly what it is for those that don't normally qualify for regular unemployment benefits. And then it will also assist those that basically were hindered because of COVID-19. For that particular program, to date, there's been slightly over 87,000 applications filed for that particular program.
And then another extension was if you've exhausted it, you might qualify for another 13 weeks, and then the Wisconsin help that comes. So
Correct.
Folks, several measures to try to meet the challenging times that we're in. And also, is it correct to say we don't know what the federal or state is going to do to change any of this,
Correct.
given now where we're at, because no one knows when the pandemic ends or when the economy recovers. So it's super important. Where's the best place for people to stay tuned into about this?
So I did share some website links earlier today with your staff, with Marlene, and the Wisconsin Unemployment website is a great website to use. There is a frequently asked question page, and then there's a frequently asked questions specific to COVID-19. It's actually a pop-up on the, as soon as you go to the web page, a pop-up will come up and you can get to those links there. I will also suggest that the Job Center Wisconsin website is a great tool for folks that need assistance. If you scroll down on the page, there's Job Center locations that you can get there where you can find the local office numbers. Staff are still answering the phones at our local offices, and they do help with any assistance needs that someone may have.
And we shared those here on the comment section with our participants. And we'll make sure, Marlene, to share them if she hasn't already on our Facebook page, and include those. We have a whole page dedicated to information, resources, and action people can take around the coronavirus. So we'll make sure that people get help with all of that. And what can people do if they're still having struggles at the unemployment office to help get their claims processed? Do we have any idea how long it's taking to process a claim? Is that something they're publicizing yet or no?
I don't have time frames available.
Okay.
I do have some statistics on what has been
The past.
yeah,
Okay.
we so far there's been it's almost 76% of claims have been allowed. There's been about 11.6% of claims that have been denied, and then there's 12.4% of claims that are still in process. And what I can answer to that question is, and a lot of folks don't sometimes understand, sometimes they feel that when they've been laid off from a job due to COVID, that's all that matters. Unemployment does look back 18 months into someone's work history, and if there's any type of quits or discharges, they all have to be investigated. They have to make sure that if it was a quit or a discharge, that it was good cause, and those wages could be included to produce their weekly benefit rate and their maximum benefit
That
amount.
makes sense.
Yeah, so it is very confusing, and not only do they reach out to the individual, they will also reach out to the employer for information, and then an adjudicator does an investigation and makes a decision whether benefits are payable.
Okay, great. So you heard that, folks. That accounts for what's happening. So if we do the math, 12% of the 782 applications are still in process. And that's why we're getting all those calls.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you have, and do they publish why the denials are happening? Like, do we have any information on like what are the most common reasons applications get rejected?
I don't have any information on that right now.
Okay.
They may not qualify. They might not have enough wages in order to qualify. There's a whole computation that is
Yes, I've
kind of
had to file
massive,
in the past. Yeah.
and
Very
it
long
goes
formula.
in a very long formula. But some folks don't qualify. They lack wages. There's lots of different scenarios that could come up for that. I don't have any statistics on that.
Yeah. In your experience in the past, what are some of the things that delay applications? Because maybe we can help people like be more prepared, more thorough, or how could they check on their application and see if they're missing something they could follow up with? Like, what are some tips we can give people to help them to make sure that their applications are prepared correctly?
Absolutely. One of the biggest things that I have seen for folks is they're when they're not even just filing initial claims, but in order to receive benefits weekly, they have to file a weekly certification. The questions that are asked are pertaining to that individual week, not outside of that week prior, just from a Sunday to a Saturday date. And some folks get confused. In the very beginning of this pandemic, we did see a lot of folks that weren't sure how to answer the question, are you able and available? And it wasn't about the employer, it's specific about the claimant themselves. All of the questions are specific about the claimant. So they want to make sure that they're answering the questions based on them, not based on whether the employer had worked for them or not at that point in time. But in answering them to the best of their knowledge, a lot of folks do sometimes answer questions incorrectly. That can easily be fixed by speaking to a claim specialist at unemployment. And getting through the phone lines is getting much easier.
Yeah. And so if people are having problems, they haven't received or they miss, who typically are they supposed to call?
They need to call unemployment directly. And the number for that, it's 414-435-7069. That is the unemployment number. We do have our Job Center of Wisconsin, or we call it Job Service Call Center number, and that would be for individuals that need the assistance in job searching or whatever the case may be, and that's an 888 number. It's 888-258-9966.
Great. And then is there a cost for any of the services that you all provide, folks?
Absolutely not. All of these services are free of charge to any individual, even if the individual is still working. These services that we would provide, many of the services that we provide at the job centers are free of charge for them. There's all sorts of additional training programs that are available for those individuals that are laid off, that they may also qualify for.
And then are folks, can they receive those services in other languages besides English?
Absolutely. We provide service through an interpretation service, for any language that is needed.
Okay. Great. Is there anything else you want to share we didn't cover? And I looked and we don't have any specific questions that I can see in the comments. I think we covered them all.
I don't think I have anything else. I just want to thank you for allowing me to take part in this today.
Thank you. Be safe. And hopefully, folks, your understanding has been increased. And we'll talk to Ann if we need to bring her back, but we appreciate your presence.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
All right, folks, trying to give you the latest on unemployment, which is a huge issue. I hope that was helpful for you. And I'm going to pass the program back to Marlene.
Thank you, Tammy. That was really good information that everyone will definitely utilize during this hard time. So now we're going to say some hellos to everyone that is on the Facebook forum. So hello to Diana, Becerra, hello to Maria Gallegos, I think I said that right. Carmen Flores, Marianne Martinez. Let's see, does anyone have any questions? I don't see any questions from anyone, but if anyone does have any questions, please take the time right now to share anything that you'd like to get more information about, or any questions that we can ask Ann and she can get back to us about. All right, so now I'm going to do the coronavirus segment that I typically do. First of all, we challenge you to do the mask up challenge. And for the mask up challenge, we ask you to post a selfie of yourself wearing the mask. As you can see, our staff have been diligent in doing so, and we've pledged to wear a mask everywhere we go. So share a selfie of yourself and tag 3 individuals that you know and ask them to also do the same thing, to pledge to wear their mask everywhere they go, because we're in this together and we're trying to help one another stay safe. So our main update for today is that I have a guest for you guys. Her name is Dr. Mandy Deckner. She's a psychotherapist from Walker's Point Community Clinic. I think you might remember her from last time that she was on the forum. And she's going to go over how to combat mask anxiety. So, Mandy, hello.
Hi. I'm not a doctor, just FYI.
Oh, I thought you were. I thought you had your PhD. Okay.
Nope, I don't, but
Okay. Well,
maybe
that
someday.
means, yeah. Well, I mean, you're still a very important resource for us, and we'd
I
love to have
do. Yes.
you. So I see you're rocking your mask.
Right.
Yes, that's very important, and you can, you can take it away, kind of introduce to us
Okay.
what mask anxiety is.
Sure. Okay. So mask anxiety is basically what it says is that, some of us who have anxiety, myself included, who don't like having our faces covered and can get a little nervous when we are told you have to do something that already makes us a little bit nervous. Except knowing that what we're doing is taking care of each other by wearing our masks. It's hard sometimes to balance out like the anxiety and the like, this is something I know that I need to do. So there are a couple of tips that I have for anyone who might be feeling some of this anxiety about wearing a mask or being worried about having to wear it wherever you go, and how you can kind of help yourself to calm those things down. So one of the first things, like I said, is to remind yourself, first of all, that we're doing this for each other. So I'm not just doing this for myself. It's not something that someone is forcing, me to do because they don't like me or they want to be mean. It's because we're trying to take care of each other. So sometimes if I think about things in terms of doing them for other people or doing them for good, then it's a little bit easier for me to kind of say, okay, I can get past myself and do this. Another thing that you can do is kind of like I'm doing right now. You can practice with wearing a mask for little bits of time when it kind of doesn't really matter. So I'm here in my house by myself, and you can practice wearing the mask for little increments of time. Like, let's say you start with 5 minutes, and while you're practicing, you can do something that's going to be distracting, like wash the dishes or fold your laundry or, I don't know, sort pencils or something. I don't know. But something that doesn't really matter, like it's not, you're not going outside or you're not going to like be in an area where there are other people, but just something to help you get yourself used to wearing it. Another thing you can do is you can try out different styles of masks. So this one is like the medical surgical one. And I like those because they have a little wire in them and it goes under my glasses and it doesn't fog up my glasses, because when I can't see, then I get more anxious. So that helps. But there are lots of other kinds. So I have one that's, it's really thin, very breathable. And this is a nice one because when it's hot outside, then it's not quite as hot. And then this is another like homemade one that has like 2 different layers in it. And that one can be kind of hot, but that one makes me feel like, oh, there's some more protection there because there's more than one layer. But whatever feels best for you, as long as it covers your nose and your mouth. So there are other ones that are you can wear around your neck and just pull up. A lot of people really like those. Kids actually really like those. And while you're wearing your mask, you can always remind yourself that I can actually breathe. I'm safe. Masks are safe. I'm keeping other people safe. And I guess reminding yourself that you can breathe is probably the most important thing. And sometimes because our face is covered, our minds start to go crazy. Like, start thinking like, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. And the more we let ourselves think about that, then the more anxious we get, and then the worse it gets.
Yeah, so that's essentially what SOC, so SOC staff is all working virtually from home right now. So that's why a lot of times you don't see us wearing masks, because we are all at home working. But, you know, it is, like you said, it is very important to practice that and to try to wear your mask when you're doing small activities. Like I wore my mask the other day just to practice, you know, making that a habit while I was painting. So I was painting and I was like, I didn't even notice it after a while. So I agree, because, so how do you, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
So how does someone, you know, try to challenge their negative thoughts about regarding anxiety, regarding you know, like if they start to think negatively, like, why should I have to wear this when other people are not wearing it? You know, like how can someone try to bring a positive light to when those thoughts start to come around?
So one of the things you can do is you can focus on the people that you do see wearing them. So one thing that was happening for me was that when I was going to the grocery store and I was seeing people who weren't wearing them, I was starting to feel like angry, because I'm like, well, I'm wearing them. Why aren't they, like you said, why aren't they wearing them? But then when I switched my focus to, okay, I told myself, okay, let's look at all the people who are wearing them. And I noticed that it was probably like, and this was before the mask mandate in Milwaukee was in effect. And I would say I saw like about 75% of people wearing them. And when I let myself focus on who was wearing them and how we were kind of all in this together, then that made me feel a lot better. Like I felt like I was doing my part. And I know that a lot of us in the pandemic feel really helpless. Like, when is this going to be over? What can I do? Am I going to get sick? Those kinds of thoughts are really easy to let go in our minds, but wearing your mask is like one really simple thing that you can do. And then you can remind yourself too, like, I am doing my part. I'm making sure that I cover my face when I go out. And that, for me, that's really helpful, because it's one thing that I can do when there are a lot of things I can't do.
Right. That's exactly right. And those that do wear a mask, you're not just wearing a mask to cover your mouth and nose because you're about, like, say you sneeze or you cough, and that's how the virus spreads. So there's also little droplets that come out of our nasal passages and our mouth while we're talking. So that's another way that the virus can spread. So we're not just saying wear your mask because it prevents the virus from being spread while you cough or sneeze. It's at all times, especially when you're having conversation with individuals.
Right. Which is why it's, important too, even with your mask on, like, because they're still like, they're not 100%. It's important too to just, when you can, as best as you can, socially distance. Keep that 6 feet from other people.
Exactly. Yeah. So what kind of mindfulness tricks can people do in order for them to feel more comfortable while they're wearing a mask?
So one of the things that I did kind of mention before is just to focus on, like, that you are breathing. So instead of saying like, I can't breathe and worried about that, like, really focus on your breathing and being mindful of that, and remind yourself, like, oh, I am breathing, and to slow that down. So being mindful of your breathing is actually really good for anxiety, aside from a pandemic. But especially when you're, wearing a mask and feeling like it's a little bit restricted. One of the things you can do to be mindful of that is to kind of slow down what you're doing and notice, like, you can take your hands and you can put them on your belly and notice if your belly is moving in and out as you're breathing. And when our bellies move in and out, that means we're breathing with our diaphragm, which is more relaxing than breathing from up here, which is what we tend to do when we feel anxious.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay, well, just everybody needs to be aware of their breath when they are wearing their masks. If you do feel, so what if someone does feel really hot? Do you think that it's okay to kind of step away somewhere and, take their mask off.
Yeah, I think that that's really important to be able to to remind yourself this is still a choice, and I have the choice when I can take it off. So if there's a way that you can step away from other people or step outside for a moment and just kind of catch your breath, you can do that. And it's about being kind to ourselves and allowing ourselves to take breaks when we need them. Because it is summer and it gets hot. So it's okay to say, I need to step away for a minute. Or, if you're at the grocery store or something like that, and it's possible for you to walk outside, go ahead. Nothing bad is going to happen. Just make sure you're away from other people, catch your breath, and come back.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Mandy, for your time today. You really have given us a better insight on how to approach masks and anxiety when we're feeling really overwhelmed wearing a mask and the steps that you can take. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. So now I'm going to introduce our census video. So we have a census video for you guys to watch, and that it's really important for everyone to complete the census. It helps us, it helps every community and every zip code understand all of the different types of resources that we can get. So the more that we know the number of individuals living in a community, the more likely we're going to get resources from the government to help those communities. So here's a video for you.
My name is Juan Escalante. I am an immigration advocate. It's extremely important for undocumented immigrants and dreamers like myself to fill out the census. One of the most important things that we have to keep in mind is that this information is kept safe and confidential. But also at the same time, it lets the government know that we're not just people living in the shadow, that we're people that have specific needs, that we form part of communities, and that we also need resources to continue to contribute to our communities and to continue to build the American dream. The census data impacts people in a variety of different ways. One of the most important ways that that impact is felt is around the type of resources that are allocated to communities, the type of representation a community receives in Congress, and ultimately whether or not your voice is heard. One of the main crucial things about this data is that it's accurate and it's dependent on participation. For those of us who are immigrants in this country, there's a lot of questions as to whether or not we should or we shouldn't fill out the census. And the truth is that the census is for everybody, whether you are a U.S. citizen, whether you are a visa holder, whether you are a legal permanent resident. If you fill out the census, your voice can be counted so that the government understands what it needs to allocate, when, and where. I plan to fill out the census this year because I know that my information is safe with the government and will not be shared with any law enforcement agency or with immigration authorities.
All right, so now if you do have any questions, please put it in the comment section. I'm scrolling through and I'm not finding as many, but if you can, if you do have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you. All right, so that being said, we have another guest on for you guys today. He's gonna give us a quick 5-minute presentation about the eviction court. His name is Pedro Hernandez from the Legal Aid Society of Milwaukee. Hello, Pedro.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. I'm working from home, so if people are wondering why he's not wearing a mask, I'm at home right now.
Same. All right, so if you can take it away and kind of explain what's happening with the eviction court.
So, I'm just trying to give some updates on the eviction court, what's going on right now. As I've talked about previously, I think in a past Facebook Live, and also as I'm sure SOC has mentioned in other Facebook Lives, the CARES Act moratorium is ending on July 25th. So after July 25th, which is this Saturday, pending any federal legislation that extends it, that means that evictions 100% of the rental properties can now give eviction notices. Before, the CARES Act covered about 1 in 4 houses that were rental units. But now, since the eviction moratorium is ending, now evictions will be proceeding likely as usual in that way. Another thing that I want to reiterate for people to know is that one of the biggest things and trends we're seeing is right now are these things that we call 5-day notices to vacate or pay rent. And those are the most common types of evictions. Is simply people have not paid rent, or a landlord is wrong about the amount of rent that a person owes for whatever reason it may be. Unfortunately, in this case, it's because a lot of people have lost jobs. So I want to reiterate for folks and repeat that you guys should reach out to people like community advocates and other organizations that have funds to help you catch up with past due rent. Because that would help also attorneys help you with your eviction cases if you ever have one. A common question we get is, how long does an eviction take? Well, that depends on how good your legal defense is. If all you can say is that, yes, I owe that money, but it was because of COVID, that might not work anymore after July 25th. So in that case, I think the best thing you can do is try to reach those funds. And I think lastly, as an update, is luckily we've had 2 past good eviction court judges, but usually they rotate out into some other part of the courthouse a year or 2 in. And now Judge Colon is leaving us at the end of July, and we're going to have a new judge come in from Children's Court, Judge Gwen Connolly. Us that are on the defense side representing tenants are hopeful, just because Judge Connolly is, she's also rational. She is very smart, and she used to represent people that were being collected on for debts. So she represented people on the defense side of debt collection lawsuits. So I think that she will be very fair and honest with her decisions. And it's just going to be another growing period that people are going to have to face in the eviction court.
Right. And if anybody needs any resources on housing or help with housing, you guys can contact the Community Advocates Center, and we just put their information in the comments section, so you can do that. We also put in Legal Aid Society of Milwaukee information and ways to contact them if you do need help legally with any evictions and you need representation. Thank you so much, Pedro, for coming on and giving us that update.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, so now we're going to show you guys our daily survey promo.
Has this live forum been informative and useful to you? What part of the forum could be improved or changed to make it better? Please take a quick survey that's located in the comments section so that we can keep 3 o'clock with SOC going for residents. Thank you for tuning in.
All right, thank you for that. Please, complete that survey and let us know what you think. So just to give a quick summary of what's coming up for the rest of the week. So tomorrow we have Nelson Soler on again. He's going to talk about entrepreneurship. And this week has all been about individual and business economics in partnership with the Latino Chamber of Commerce and the Latino Entrepreneurial Network. And we got some help from UMOS as well to bring on guests for today. On next week, we have some great guests coming in for you, and we're going to be talking about racial justice. I hope that all of the information that we shared today was to your liking and it was important. Let us know if you have any questions. Lastly, I'd like to say that SOC stands with solidarity with protesters and families right now, and that our thoughts and prayers go out to those that have been impacted by COVID-19, those that have gotten ill by COVID-19, and the deaths that have occurred due to COVID-19. In conclusion, I'd like to leave you with a video, a partner thank you video that has been made by our seniors. So thank you very much, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we will see you tomorrow.
Thank you to our sponsor, Wisconsin Voice, Community Development Block Grant, Neo Philanthropy State Infrastructure Fund, Movement Board Project, Catholic Campaign for Human Development, Silver Foundation, Sirio Milwaukee Office of Violence Prevention, Thai Foundation, Sirio Milwaukee Promised Son, all the faithful individuals who support SAC through the personal donation. Thank you, thank you, thank you.